Hi guys and gals, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the bike or the bicycle machine. This machine is pretty much simple, but like any other cardio machine, if you make one mistake repeatedly for many times, it can cause a lot of damage. So I'm going to first tell you how you should set up the bike, then how you should do the exercise and position yourself, and the common mistakes that people make. So the first thing is the setup. So the seat positioning, how you should bring it, and the distance between the seat and the handle. This is pretty much simple. This is the guideline, but I'm gonna later on tell you how you should understand that the height is good for you when you're on the bike. So pretty much it should be a little bit lower than your hip or the iliac here. So it should be a little bit lower, not too much up, not too much low. And also the distance from the seat to the handle is gonna be around your lower arm. Now you can go a little bit out or in, but again, later on I'm going to tell you how you should understand which distance is better for you. Majority of the bikes have normally 4 pins or handles for you to change the dimensions. The first one is going to be for you to bring this up and down. The second is going to be for bringing the seat forward and back. The third is going to be for bringing the handles, so all of the handles up and down the height. And the fourth one is going to be for moving the upper side forward and back. This is something that there is not any specific guidelines because each machine is different, but normally the end of the seat should be before the pedals. So when the pedals are up, not to the side, when they are all the way up or down, it should be before them. So if you bring it too much forward like this, as you can see, it's past them, so it's going to be hard. Again, if you go too much back and the distance is too much, it's going to be hard as well. But this is something again that is dependent on the machine itself. Also, bringing this forward and back is gonna just be dependent on the length of your torso, and we're gonna talk about this as well. And also this is gonna be dependent on the positioning of the seat, but normally just 1 or 2 inches above the seat is gonna be alright to put this. So another thing that you should keep in mind is that you shouldn't strap this too much tight. When it's too much tight, if you lose your balance, it's hard to bring the feet back and free yourself and balance yourself. So make sure it's not too loose or too much tight. So you should be free with this. And when you come on the bike, now you've got to consider if the seat and everything is comfortable. To understand that, you're gonna bring the leg down, and if you see that you're sitting down and the leg is fully straight, now of course I'm bringing my heel down on the ground, so my toes are up. But if the toes were down and the leg was fully straight like this, so considering that if I was seated and this is my leg, that's too much up. So that's going to cause a lot of problems in your leg. It should be slightly bent when you do the cycle, so it shouldn't go all the way straight when you're seated. So it should be a little bit bent, and also the heel should not be too much down. So the heel should be a little bit higher. If the heel is too much down, it probably means that you are too much back. Also, another thing that can indicate you're too much back is, as you can see, when I'm doing the exercise, first, again, the heel is going to be too much down. And the second thing is, as you can see when I pedal, the knee is just not in front of the toes. So, of course, when you go back, it might come past the toes, but the majority of the exercise, the toes are forward. So, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's going to be a lot of impact on your hip and it's going to make you fatigue. And also, when you go too much forward, this time, as you can see, the knee is forward majority of the time. And that's going to cause a lot of, again, pressure on the knee, and it's going to fatigue you as well. The quads this time are going to get fatigued compared to the last time that you were using the hamstring and glutes a lot. This time the quads are getting fatigued, but again, if you consider this angle, so again, it's going to be before them, and you come up and do the cycle, you're going to use both sides of your leg equally, so you're not going to get fatigued, and it's going to be easier on the joints as well. So, now you're going to consider the height. Normally, the higher you bring it, it's going to be more comfortable, but do not bring it too much high as well. So, again, as mentioned, 1 or 2 inches higher than the seat is going to be alright. The reason is, the lower you bring it, so for example, if I bring it too much low, I'm going to be bent too much, and I'm going to later on describe that it's going to be really hard on the lower back, and it can even cause injuries to your spine and this. So make sure you bring it up. So the spine is going to be more upright. So it's going to be better for the disc, and also it's going to be better for breathing as well. So the more upright you are and the more extended your spine is, breathing is going to be easier. So do not curve yourself. Make sure the chest is forward, and you can also lean a little bit to control yourself and avoid getting fatigued. Because if you keep yourself in this posture, it's going to fatigue you, and it's also bad for the spine. But keep in mind that if you bring it too much forward and lean too much, it's also again bad for the spine, because you're going into this posterior tilt because you're bending too much, and that's also bad. Although you're not perpendicular to the ground, you're coming down, but you have a lot of posterior tilt. So bring it back. Do not bring it too much back that you're too much upright. Do not bring it too much forward that you're leaning a lot. So we talked about almost all of them. Just one quick one. Make sure the height is not too much down as well. So if the height is, for example, here, as you can see, my knee is bent a lot. What it causes is that I'm not going to be able to conduct my force properly. So because I'm not having a good contraction and a stretch in this position, I'm not going to be capable to do my best, and also it's going to be a lot of pressure on my meniscus because my knee is constantly bent. So again, a little bit lower than your iliac or the top of your hip, and you come up. So the seat positioning and how you position yourself is good. Now we're going to talk about the ankle positioning or the feet positioning itself. Make sure the toes are not too much down, not too much up. So exaggeration of dorsiflexion and plantar flexion is going to be bad for the ankle and also for the knee as well. So something in between. If you feel a lot of tension in your knee area and this area, make sure you bring the toes a little bit higher, so you shift the focus here to your TFL and your rectus femoris, the quad muscle, and vice versa. If there are a lot of tension in here, bring the toes a little bit down. That way you're gonna see that the tension shifts to this area, more specifically the vastus medialis. So the higher the toes are, the more focus is here. The lower you bring them, the more focus is lower. But do not exaggerate it as mentioned. Coming a little bit higher, we talked about the hip positioning. Make sure you keep the arch in your back. Also, aside from that, make sure the core is engaged as well, so the spine doesn't move forward too much. So do not extend or flex the lower part of your spine too much. So not this as well. For you to prevent this, just use your rectus abdominis or the core muscles in front of you a little bit more. Coming a little bit higher, we go to the arm. Make sure your elbow is not fully locked. So slightly bend the elbow so the impact is getting absorbed. So when you go all the way straight, all of this impact is going all the way to your shoulder and it's going to be bad for the elbow. But when it's a little bit bent, it's going to be a little bit more flexible and it's not going to be a lot of impact on the shoulder. That's the same reason I told you to keep the knee a little bit bent and make sure it's not all the way straight when you're sitting. And of course, again, I don't mean when the heel is down. When the heel is neutral, the knee should not be like this straight. It should be a little bit bent. So, another thing, another mistake, really dangerous mistake I see a lot of people make is that people want to make it a little bit more challenging. They come up and they go down. And I see a lot of times people trying to do it fast and you can cause a lot of imbalances in that exercise if you do that and you might fall. So make sure you control it. Also, the same principle that we talked about, the knee positioning that we mentioned, should apply when you're up as well. So when you come up, again, the knee should be bent all the time to some degree. So not this, this is again back. Make sure the knee is slightly bent. And also, there is no point to shift your entire weight to your arms like this and do the exercise standing. So make sure you just use the handles for balance. Just put your hands beside them for balance. Do not shift your weight, and more specifically, again, do not go all the way straight. When you're straight, again, a lot of impact. So when you're up, make sure again the elbow is slightly bent. Also make sure the knees don't go too much out or too much in. So any exaggerated internal or external rotation of the hip is bad. And also make sure you do not have too much inversion and eversion of the hip. So do not do this as well. Make sure you control it. And as the last note, make sure you do not bend the wrist too much as well. Again, you might not feel it in that time, but if you just keep your wrist bent for a long time like this, it's gonna be a lot of impact. Now, whether it's like this or it's like this, it's gonna be bad in the long term.